Hey, guess who's here? We are Frisky Biscuit. I'm Dr. G, and this is my cohorts.
Lisa.
She's here in all her glory today. We're happy to have you along for this ride about motorhome junkies, food trucks, truckers, commuters, anybody driving a car, driving down the highway to make a living. You are all about what we're about. And we're going to talk about a lot of that kind of stuff today. So welcome to Frisky Biscuit, and we are brought to you by Moose Eye Grantology.
That's me.
That's her. And she's proud of it. So without further ado, let's kind of get started here, Lisa. And what do we have on our agenda for today?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We're just going to BS with you all day today.
Yes.
We have nothing. By the way, we never have anything important to say, but it's all important. So.
Actually, we do have some important things. If you did not listen to our last podcast and you are out there camping and you can't find campsites, go listen to that, because it's a bunch of malarkey that they're saying that there's no campsites. There's tons and tons and tons, especially on federal land. And those are all on federal land. So bring a pen and paper and write them all down and go to the web and find them.
It's called fear porn.
Yes. Yes, which is malarkey.
I love using that word, porn, fear porn on camping. Camping porn.
Oh. I'm trying to imagine that. Let's move on.
I'm digressing. Here we go again.
Okay, so we're going to just touch base a little bit on our fear porn from the last one.
So you like using that too?
It is. It's kind of cool. So, we're going to tell you a little bit more about the Army Corps of Engineers, which is just one little piece of the federal government of the campsites, but just a little background, because I found it so freaking interesting. About 240 years ago, a little more than that, the Congress, before they even wrote the Constitution in June of 1775, they put together the Continental Army Chief Engineer, and they gave him this position. And then in 1802, they actually set up a separate and permanent branch of the engineers, and they founded, get this, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point to train all the engineers in order to take care of this part of our country. They take care of all the dams and all the waterways. They're kind of the nation's largest environmental engineers, and they keep industry from building on those grounds for us as well. So it's pretty fascinating. They're the largest of the federal providers for outdoor entertainment for the Army Corps of Engineers.
That's kind of fascinating. I always thought the Army Corps of Engineers was part of the Army, and the connection is the Army provided West Point to train their engineers.
Yes.
For the
yes. To take care of all the waterways.
Yeah, and they do an amazing job. And what a huge job that is. They're managing all these dams. So we've taken advantage of a lot of these campsites, and they are stunningly beautiful. So
a lot of them are outside the national parks or near the national parks. They're all on waterways. They dredge 200 million cubic yards a year. And there's 12,000 miles of commercial inland navigable waterways that are owned and operated by the Corps. There's 926 coastal Great Lakes and inner harbors. And they work with their technical and their construction support over 100 countries worldwide. So they're, hats off to you guys. And if you're out there listening, we give you a shout out, because that's just amazing.
It's amazing work. They do beautiful work. So Army Corps of Engineers.
450 campgrounds that are located in the Army Corps of Engineers that we went over yesterday. So a really great way to find them. You're talking boating, skiing, canoeing, kayaking, swimming, fishing, and they're so beautiful. So you've got the views there as well. They're like $12 to $50, and if you get the America Pass, if you're under 62, it's only $40 a year. I mean, what a great pass to have that goes to all the federal parks. And if you're 62 and older, it's $80 for the rest of your life.
If you stop and think about that, what a bargain that is. Think about what you pay to go to a movie, what you pay to go do just about anything, and then think about $80 to go to all these parks and all these places, and that pays for it, what, for the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Well, $80 for seniors for their lifetime.
That is amazing.
And seniors considered 62 and over, and then $40 a year annually for anybody that's under 62.
Who said it doesn't pay out to be a senior?
Yeah, us baby boomers, we rank, yes. Hey, and also, you can go to a website. I'm going to give you, this wasn't in yesterday's podcast, so write this one down. It's called Corpse Lakes Getaway. C-O-R-P-S, Corpse Lakes, L-A-K-E-S, with an S on the end, Gateway, Corpse Lakes Gateway. My words are all getting stumbled today. And it's a website, and you can search by state.
You require another cup of coffee.
Yeah, I know. By state, by which lake, and which activity. So if you want to go fishing, per se, and you can find all the lakes to go fishing. If you want to go to a certain lake, you can see all the activities that are there. If you want to go to a certain state, you can see what's there with the Army Corps Engineer. And then you just switch over to recreation.gov, and that's how you book the campsite. So they're all, most of them you do book in their campgrounds, but they also have other lands that you can just boondock on. So I just wanted to go through and follow up because I was so fascinated that they were put together before our Constitution was even put together.
Let's have a pop quiz on our last podcast. See if they remember the acronyms.
Okay. Go for it.
Do you remember any of the acronyms?
No. COE, Corps of Engineers.
United States Forest Service, But anyway,
Land of
just
recreation.
have a little fun there. But that was pretty valuable information. When we got started out, we have to search out all this stuff, and there's tons of apps, there's tons of people helping with how to do this. But the point of it is, you forget about it and you get lost in all these apps.
Right.
And we kind of did that, and we over-apped ourselves. And then we realized there's probably just a couple of them, maybe 3 of them that are extremely valuable. You had one yesterday, or not yesterday, but when we did the last podcast, that was for free camping. And I think that's one of the coolest ones.
Freecampsites.com.
Yeah.
And what's cool about that is you just put in your state, and then it populates all the free camping. Now, you have to remember, a lot of that's off-road, so just double-check your satellite views to look at the roads, because you don't want to get stuck out there in a Class A, say, and you can't get out, or you can't turn around, or you have a towable and you're stuck.
You can get stuck in a Class A at a gas station.
I know.
You get in there,
you have a heart attack at how much it costs to put the petrol in your tank.
And just getting it off the parking lot and the size, and getting stuck in there. Some pickup pulls in behind you in a car in front of you, and you're living there for the rest of your life.
But you do have 2 bathrooms.
That's true. A rolling home. Yes, exactly. All right, what else you have there?
Well, I found some funny stories. I thought, well, let's laugh today. When I looked up funny stories for RVs and motorhomes, most of them came up with the poop tank. And, I'm kind of over that. It's like we all know what happens, that Robin Williams film where it just shot up in the air, and everybody has a funny poop story.
We all have a funny poop story. And so we're not going to talk much about that.
No, this first one's pretty cool. Okay, it started out with a family. So there's a mom, a dad, a 9-year-old girl, and a 7-year-old boy. And the first mistake, I think, is they borrowed a travel trailer. I mean, borrowing a travel trailer, I don't know. You're almost better renting it.
Just asking for trouble.
Yeah. Although it was their in-laws. So they took off and they went camping, and they say we arrived well before dawn, but later than supper time.
Now, one of the rules we have is get there before dark. Man, I'll tell you what, there's nothing, I don't care how automated you are, and we're pretty automated. Man, I'll tell you what, things really change after dark. So
yes,
that's one thing. If you're a newbie out there, make it one of your rules to get there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 at the latest, so you have time to set things up. Because listen to this story.
Yeah.
This is about arriving after dark.
So they got there after dark. And I don't know that was that much of a factor, yet it was. So the wife decided she's going to cook dinner. She's going to be inside. She's going to cook the burgers inside the travel trailer. The husband's going to take the little girl and little boy outside, and he's going to show them all the do's and don'ts, like setting up the canopy outside, finding firewood and putting the fire together.
How to be a man.
Yeah. Put your axe, how to use the axe, how to cut the wood, how to start the fire, and then how to connect the sewer, the electric, how to raise and level, the tongue jack. Show them all this while they're young, so when they get older, they'll know how to do it. They also wanted to make sure to show them how to get water, how the fire extinguisher worked, how the outside faucet worked. And the last was what their boundaries are, what their parameters are to ride the bikes, right? You don't want them to go too far away. So that was all going well. And then an older couple pulled up beside them, and they said hi to the wife and the husband. And they said, hey, if you need anything, we can help you. Just let us know, just ask, and we'll be there for you. So that all happened. And then they were ready to go eat dinner. So they started walking back to the camper, and all of a sudden they heard these banging and this swishing inside the camper. And he started walking faster, the husband did, and he noticed the door was open, and as he got closer, he knew what happened. His son, now remember, his son's 7 years old, he experienced the thrill of discharging the fire extinguisher. The wife was pissed, right?
Oh, man.
All the food was
what
ruined.
What a mess.
They learned how to use the outdoor shower at that point, I assume. But first, they couldn't find the son. They started yelling for him everywhere, inside, outside, and they couldn't find him. And then the husband realized, hey, there's only my steps in the camper. If the son had left, he would have had his steps there too. So they went inside, and they found him hiding under the table, just filled with white powder all over him. So the funniest, okay, that's pretty funny, but the funniest part was, remember the old couple that pulled up next door? Well, as this was happening, they packed all their stuff up and left.
Thanks. We don't need your help. We're fine. Yeah.
So thank goodness they didn't see them the rest of their trip. They were just so happy.
And the moral of the story is, before 3 o'clock, start setting up and pay attention, and do not show your 7-year-old how to run a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, and I would say, hide the fire extinguisher from the 7-year-old. Maybe teach the 9-year-old that this isn't what we want to do.
It's a cool gun, Dad.
I can't imagine that anybody would think about that, but I guess a 7-year-old, their mind is very curious.
Well, he was teaching him how to be a man, and that right?
Pull that
and we're showing him all that man stuff, and man, that young man decided to be a man, and we're going to put this imaginary fire out. What a mess.
My question was, what did they have for dinner that night? If everything was ruined, she had to start all over again.
Be a little rough. That would really ruin my day.
Yeah.
Just what a mess.
Yeah. So I have one more. Want to hear the second one?
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a couple that left Buffalo, New York, and they were going to Florida. So they stopped in a travel plaza in West Virginia to gas up. So the guy was gassing the vehicle. The wife went inside the travel compound and came back out and realized the trailer behind their motorhome was gone. So she asked her husband about it, and he had just a blank look on his face. And so they decided, well, maybe we just left it at home. So they went all the way back home. Now, granted, they stopped for gas, so it must have been 200 or 300 miles. Then they turned around and went back home. And when they got back home, the travel trailer was gone. They're like, oh my gosh, what happened? So they called the police, thinking somebody stole it.
Now, did we hook that up, or did we not hook that up? Did we bring it?
Yeah. And then the police said, oh, we found your travel trailer. We found it in Pennsylvania in a ditch. So that obviously they didn't hook it up correctly. And in the travel trailer was a Harley with a sidecar and a scooter. The scooter was completely demolished. The Harley was a bit sideways, and the travel trailer made it.
That's sad. The poor Harley with a sidecar. Man,
so
that's rough.
2 in 2 days of make sure if you're doing a travel trailer or a towable to check your pins and double check them.
So I'm going to dedicate that story to my daughter and her husband, Rick, who lost their little pop-up in the middle of a street from not getting it hooked up right, which can happen to about anybody. Sometimes these hitches aren't that easy to figure out. And so just really double check everything. The moral of these stories is never get in a hurry, never assume it's done correctly or you remembered it. When you forget your trailer and you can't remember if you hooked it up or not, you must have had something else on your mind, so it's probably not a good idea to, just let your mind slide and slip when you're hooking your rigs up.
Well, and I think that's a lot of it, when we're leaving, there's so much to do, right? We're putting everything in the kitchen and remembering the butter, remembering all the little things and our clothes and our items. And, to hurry that process, I think that's where the mistakes happen. And even when you get to your campsite and you're undoing everything and people start distracting you, I mean, that's one of the number one rules, right? Is don't get distracted.
Well, getting distracted can be really dangerous just doing about anything. But, let's talk a little bit about the process of just getting ready. Part of the fun we have is just getting ready to go on a trip. And the organization of it, there's a lot. I have to admit, Lisa does about 90% of it as far as the infrastructure inside of food and packing all the essentials of life.
Well, and I would say I start about a week ahead of time. I do have a main list. I used to print them out, but it was such a pain. So I just put it on my phone. And so I have a food list of just the staples to remember. And I would be surprised how many times I forget one thing on the list. So I do double check that twice. I start off with it and go shopping with it. And then at the very end, right before we leave, I do check everything off in my mind, as I'm looking through the list. And then I have another list of things to remember, like the cords.
Like the butter.
Yeah, the butter.
Remember the butter.
I did forget the butter.
We went on a trip without butter. And believe me, that sounds trite, doesn't it? You go on a trip without butter and you see what happens. It ruins the trip.
We do love our butter. Yeah, so that double checking that list, like cords to charge your phone. I mean, there's like little things that become major if you forget them. Or like we have cameras and microphones and a whole bunch of stuff, which is kind of Gary's area, that if you forget one, you might not be able to do your work.
Right.
You can do things along the way.
And we do work from the road as well sometimes. I do a lot of consulting still, and so you got to have internet and you got to have your notes and stuff with you. So it is a process, and if you attempt to do it like in a day, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. So probably a good idea is just to remember to make a list. We used to make a list of even checking out the rig before we leave. We've got a checklist, just like with a plane.
That we never check.
Not anymore. You kind of got to
Actually, we kind of
memorize.
have it down, like inside. Make sure that all the cabinets are shut. Make sure that things are locked and tightened, that the slide is in, that the stabilizers are up. I mean, ours won't move because of that. However, others can. So make sure your sewer hose is in.
That's embarrassing to be dragging your sewer hose down the street.
Yeah, and another thing we do is we gas up the day before. So we're not hurried that morning to get petrol on the way, to do all those last minute things. We really concentrate on our stuff the day of. And we leave fairly early. So we do a lot of things the night before. We just do the refrigerator stuff.
Yeah.
Like we're pretty much packed and ready to go before we go.
I think one of the big things, everybody gets in a hurry. You're driving out on the road, you notice everybody's in a hurry. And one of the problems with people these days is we're all so busy that we hurry everything because we never have enough time. Well, when we go camping or when we go on a trip or a family trip or those 2 weeks we spend, it's really worth it to slow things down a little bit and savor these moments because, when you're getting ready to go, that is part of the fun of it and the planning. But also once we leave, we take our time.
Yeah.
We do not rush down the highway to get to the first campsite so we can set up and sit on our chairs and stare at a tree. We enjoy the journey as you go along the way because that is part of it, and learn how to slow it down a little bit and have fun with it.
And it's great family time. It's a great time to get to know your partner, get to know your family, because there's not a lot of distractions. Or you can listen to a book on tape, which all of you are listening to and can talk about. So we tend to get off our electronics because we're driving. Like me, if I'm not driving, generally in the motorhome I'm not driving. So I tend to just look out the window and talk about what we're seeing on the road and the license plates and the surroundings and where we want to stop. So there's a lot of downtime, and I think that really helps with the electronics to balance that out. I'm not on my phone all the time or on a computer all the time. Within my work, I am. So it gives a great reprieve.
Exactly. I was just curious as you were talking about that. Remember the podcast we did with regarding Kevin Costner's app called Here Here?
Yes.
We haven't got that yet, do we? That's not set up for Android yet?
I haven't checked it in the last week or so.
That is cool.
Yeah, if you have an Apple, that's really cool, because wherever you're traveling, you can just go here, where you're at and see what's available. You may want to just duck off the road and see something really cool.
Well, it gives a narration of, as you're driving along in that area, what's on the side of the road, and it's kind of a little tiny tour, a narrated tour with, Kevin does some of the voice work. He's got some of his friends doing it, but it's a pretty cool app. It's a cool idea. They spent a lot of money and time doing it, and I just remembered that would be, we ought to get that and see if we can get it to work for us. But to encourage other people to maybe do that, if you can do some traveling, even if you're not on a motorhome, you're doing car traveling, like go through Yosemite or Yellowstone or one of the big parks, and some of these little towns, they got all these little towns on there and the things to see. So it sounds like fun.
Yeah, and last I checked, it was only on Apple. So if it's on Android, then everybody can get it. We're Android people.
Yeah, we're Android people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring me up, Scotty.
Before we forget, probably one of the things we ought to do right now, since we kind of cheat on this a little bit, Lisa owns a company called Moose Eye Grantology. And Moose Eye Grantology is a pretty cool thing. It's if you have a nonprofit out there, she can find money for that nonprofit, and it's legal. And so I think we ought to take a moment and let you explain what you do with that. And a lot of people that watch us are aware of you doing that, and we've had people ask questions. So explain Moose Eye Grantology and what you can do to help them fund their organization with a grant, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so what I do is I write grants and I research grants of what grants fit your organization. So if you were to come to me, and it's a good time to come. I mean, we're getting into the second quarter at this point. And if your organization hasn't done their fundraisers, aren't collecting the funds that you require for your budget, it may be a good time to look into a grant or grants for your organization. And so I will look through your organization of where you're at, where your board is at, where your organization, how long have you been have your organization put together, and what are you looking to do? Once we figure everything's in place, then I go and find a grant that coordinates with where your mission, what you want to do in the next year or so. There's always timelines too, so we coordinate those timelines with what you're doing, what you want to get funded, and then I sit down with you. It's a group effort, collect the data from you, and then I write a persuasive narrative. I put together your budget. We put together why, when, all those why, when, where, who, what, where, of what your grant is about. And then we submit it, keep our fingers crossed to make sure that we do our best job for you to get funded. So you can reach us on our website at mooseeyegrantology.com. We also have a YouTube channel with a few different YouTube videos explaining different parts of what we do. And that is Moose Eye Grantology. So give us a call.
Is that also the YouTube channel? Is that just Moose Eye Grantology? Yeah. All I can say is, and I'm prejudiced, she does a great job, and it's a premier grant writing company, so they're not just a bunch of people loosely attempting to write grants. They get the jobs done, and they find the big money. So let her help you if she can. Mm-hmm. All right. Now back to what we talk about. By the way, let's also chime in there for ourselves and shamelessly promote Road Warriors and what that is. And we have some interviews going to be coming up again. We've done a couple of podcasts without interviews because we had a bunch of them there in a row. But talk to them about what we're doing with this and what it's about.
Yeah, this is our little Road Warrior sticker. And You can put it on your car, put it on your motorhome, put it on your truck, your food truck. And what we do is we like to go and interview and see what you have to say. Where have you been? Why are you out on the road? What do you like about being out on the road? And we make it fun. You can go back to our YouTube channel and see some of our past interviews that we have, and we consider you the road warriors. So this weekend, we will be out interviewing on the road warriors.
In the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hardcore. Yeah, we're...
Yeah, we'll be
we're graduating to camping from glamping, I think.
You can also go to our YouTube channel, which is Frisky Biscuit Podcast, and talk to us. Write some comments on there. We'd love to talk to you. And if you want to be interviewed, you could write us there. And you can write us through our website, frisky-biscuit.com.
Please do comment, because it helps us kind of guide ourselves along here, and so we know what you're interested in. And we've had a couple of people on our podcast with interviews that have really, really kind of helped us a lot, because they're extremely popular themselves. We want to put a shout out to Robert Morales, who was on our podcast a few weeks ago and allowed us to interview him and talk to us for a long time. And Robert, we really appreciate it, and that made a big difference to us. And also Dean Corrigal, who was just on shortly. He's a friend of ours, but he also is the national rep for leisure travel vans, and not that we're soliciting leisure. However, Dean gives exceptional service and care to the people who buy those vans, and he makes everybody a friend. And fortunately, we became friends too. So Dean, thank you for help giving this podcast a boost and coming on Frisky Biscuit, and we're looking forward to doing that again.
Mm-hmm.
With
and
these
Brandon,
guys.
Don't forget Brandon.
Brandon. Brandon is a
Ghost
trip.
Adventures.
Yeah, in fact, he's got a new video out that's pretty good. He talks about going on a road trip. What was he saying?
He had his beautiful wife on with him, and they were talking about what it's been like the last 2 years in their leisure travel van and how she liked it. And they're also getting a towable, so they're going to be able to do both, have a van and a towable, and compare the two of them. So they have some pretty cool things that they sell on their website, 3 really fundamental things for leisure travel van. So we appreciate your interview, all of the interviews. I mean, we've had some great interviews with Harley Davidson people, with food trucks, with truckers. So we'd love to interview a female trucker. That's still on our bucket list to do. So if you are a truck driver and you identify as a woman.
We see you out there. You're passing us all the time, you girls driving these big trucks.
Yeah.
We see you. Yeah. So one of you, if you bump into us or hear this podcast, chime in and get in touch with us. We would like to Zoom with you, or even meet you somewhere in person and talk to you about what it's like to be a female trucker out there, because the truckers are under siege right now with these fuel prices and some of the stuff going on. It's not good. And they're a shortage right now. They're looking for good truck drivers, and I think it's kind of hard to find people who are qualified to drive a truck without too many felonies and DWI charges. And so if you're somebody out there that's interested in that as a career, you might think about that, because the trucking business is a great business, and a lot of these companies are really bending over backwards to help you build a good career out of it.
Mm-hmm. And it pays very well. You can decide where you want to go to, what part of the country, if you want to just work during the week, on the weekends, for a month on, month off. You write your own ticket with the truckers right now.
Yeah, and we're talking about UPS drivers, local delivery drivers too. These are great careers. So we put a lot of heart out to the truck drivers out there, because if you stop and think about it, everything coming to you is coming probably from a truck. And if it came from a train, it got on a truck to come to you.
Yeah, so. Yeah, even Amazon,
Even Amazon.
Half our stuff now comes from Amazon.
Most of our stuff does. I think I just dread going through a store anymore.
I know.
I don't know what there is about it. I used to love going into stores, these big box stores. Oh, man, I'd walk all over the place. I can't stand it now. I don't know what happened.
Well, it's so easy to pick it out online, and most everything is online. A lot of times I'll go to the actual company that has the product versus Amazon and just go directly to them and, compare So it's fun. It's kind of fun to compare and contrast. And then I feel like I have a lot more time on my hands to do what I want to do rather than running around in my car to different stores.
Exactly. Well, the fuel prices, so what do you think is going to happen with the fuel prices? What's your opinion on all this?
I think we're still going to see them increase. And because they've shut down 10% of the refineries, I think that's a big problem. We don't have enough.
That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, this whole political thing is crazy, and it's affecting all of us with our fuel. And that's what everybody's talking about. And I often wonder, are they sidetracking us doing all the other things behind or what? But as far as the question goes, I think that fuel is going to continue to go up. So I think we just have to be really smart and cut back on things that aren't required and go and have fun.
I think there's a conspiracy theory to keep people from having fun.
Really?
And I think we've got to go out there and have fun anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
I think there's a thing to break people's spirit, and they're letting their spirits get broken because they're making it about fuel prices, and people are stopping doing the things. I'll go ahead and get political too. I think COVID had a lot to do with that. And I think what all of us have to do is just get out there and fight through this, join arms, and not put up with it. And talk to your congressman if they can do anything, and do something yourself to make a difference in the world and be that change you want the world to be. Set a good example, but do not allow yourself to give up.
Yeah, because by you having fun and by you creating your own life, it really resonates to everybody around you. And so just cutting back a little bit and going ahead and going on the road, I think is a great thing to do. And, Elon Musk is a great example that pushes through. And he, with his new Starlight system for us as RVers. Starlink, sorry. I know I changed things a little bit.
Well, again, for the sake of accuracy, and I am the accuracy cop here, we want to make sure that everybody understands everything we say is true.
Yes. Well, It is. It's just a little off sometimes. So anyway, Starlink RV is what it's called. And the difference between Starlink RV and regular Starlink is it'll get to you really quick. If you go online and you purchase Starlink RV, it'll come to you almost immediately, and you can use it anywhere. There also is a customer support page because there's areas that they throttle it down if there's too many users. Right now they have about 2,300 satellites, and they're going to go up to 42,000 satellites. So it's a wonderful way to get in on the ground floor as it grows. Now, it's not really inexpensive. However, the people that have it really love it. As long as you're not under a tree coverage and foliage, you have to be able to be in the satellite. So if you're boondocking, this is a great thing for you. It runs around $5.99 to purchase the satellite dish, and then $135 a month. So it's about what you pay for, a little more than internet, but it's so much better and very fast.
Pretty interesting, though. How many thousand satellites? 43,000?
42,000.
42,000. Think about that for a second. 42,000 satellites. That's a lot of stuff up there in space, but he's got a lot of work to do still. But we're on the front end of that, and it's an amazing idea. And the people that are using it like it, and they say it's pretty darn good. Soft spot on it is, I guess, if you're under trees, the reception isn't very good, which makes sense with any satellite dish. You got to have clear sky. Clouds are okay, but the trees obstruct it. But so we're kind of thinking about it. We haven't done it yet. We're using a Verizon hotspot, and that seems to do the job for us right now.
We're not out there full time though, so we're just out and about, and then come back home. So we tend to be okay with what we have right now. If we're out on the road more, I would say we'd probably do both. Probably have our hotspot and have the satellite coverage.
I think Brandon Hensley, who was on with us, the guy we were talking about, Pagosa company, I think he was using Starlink and said he's going to stay with his Verizon or something like that. He had another kind of a system. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember.
All I remember Brandon for is he showed us how to get that Mercedes radio to really sound good.
Yes.
If you have a Sprinter van, Check out Brandon's little video on how to fix that in about 15 seconds. It's pretty cool.
No, would that be every Sprinter van? So every chassis?
With a radio, I think so, probably.
Okay,
One of the newer
so
ones,
it's not just leisure travel van. It's
no,
anybody
it's all
with
of
a
them.
Sprinter.
I think it's all of them.
Ooh.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. In the comments, there's something to comment on right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you find us inaccurate, you can comment and let us know. We'll get comments any way we can, so we're going to start being inaccurate.
No.
You know?
That's my category. That's my job. Okay, well, let's talk about some more news. Let's go to California. There's always news in California. And I would say some of it's on cutting edge, and some of you are just going, what the hell? This one is, for me, it sounds like cutting edge, but I'm kind of going, what the hell? It's about license plates. And so they're the only state in the United States.
By the way, this is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
You got to hear this. And think about the benefit to California by doing this.
So they're now allowing sticker plate alternatives because instead of drilling into the car to put a license plate, there's a company called licenseplate.wrap.com, and you can only use it if you live in California. And you put in your license plate. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to get it, and you get a sticker for your car.
That looks like a license plate.
That looks like a license plate, and it kind of goes over the bumper.
Goes on the paint.
Yeah, you want to make sure you probably have good paint because you're never going to get it off. If you want to paint your car, you'd have to paint over it. It costs $85, and it takes a little longer to get, and it's a higher registration fee. But to me, it's like, why would you do that? To me, I love license plates. I love looking at them. I love all the different states. They're cool. Why would I want to put a sticker on instead of a license plate? And I like to keep the license plates. Like you go into some places around the country and they have all these old license plates.
Yeah, diners that have nothing to decorate with.
Yeah.
If they didn't have license plates.
I know. I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
It is. I think it's kind of stupid. But, only California, they either lead a trend or they're completely behind the trend and miss the mark many times.
Or they lead a trend that goes down the wrong way, like letting people camp on the sidewalks. I mean, it's just kind of a wrong way. I like Tennessee. Starting June 1st, which is coming up, they're the only state in the United States that makes it a felony now, and they give you at least 24-hour notice, that's written in the law, that it's a felony to camp on public lands. So you can't camp on the sidewalks, you can't camp in the city park. And to me, that makes so much more sense than California allowing everybody to camp everywhere. At least you keep your nice places for your residents who are paying for it. Those areas that are public, really nice. So
absolutely.
If you go to Tennessee, make sure that you know where you're camping. Make sure you get a permit, or that it's not on a public area that's not permitted after June 1st.
And you'll notice it wasn't California that came up with that law. Because they love using their public parks as campsites for free.
Yeah, although a lot of people from California are moving to Tennessee, so we'll see what happens there.
We'll see what happens.
You haven't ever been to Tennessee? It is so beautiful. It's definitely worth going.
Yes.
One of my favorite
places.
Go
over there and travel. Move to Tennessee.
I don't know if the Tennessee people will like us saying that.
Oh, man, I tell you what. Sometimes I wonder, what are we doing here, right?
Well, I'm talking to you right now.
I think it's about time for us to get off the air here and head down the road. We're getting ready to leave on our own little trip.
Okay.
And we really appreciate your comments, and we mean that. Please comment on our videos and our podcasts.
And subscribe on YouTube. We're still heading for those 1,000 subscribers. We're slowly building more than 20 right now.
We're waiting to be big, and so we can go live. And they won't let children like us go live until we've proven that we can be big and behave ourselves. So please subscribe. We really would appreciate it. And also comments and questions. Just check us out on all of our websites, whether it's YouTube or one of the many podcast sites that we're on. And thank you for watching and listening. We do appreciate it. We enjoy doing this for you. And if there's information about camping, motorhoming, trucking, traveling, that you want to know that you don't hear everywhere else, let us know. We'll find it out. Lisa is an excellent researcher.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love helping you guys, and I really appreciate you coming and hearing us. So, thanks.
So until next time, this is Dr. G.
And Lisa.
Saying bye-bye, God bless you, and also drive careful, keep the greasy side down. Bye-bye.
See ya.